Welcome to the Honest CV podcast. We're the podcast for health professionals and the wider community, looking to explore diverse ideas in health, ask some hard questions, and have some honest conversations. My name is Archie. I'm an EP based on Sydney's Northern Beaches, and joining me as always is Allied Health business owner Andrew. Andrew, how are you?
I'm well. It's getting more and more aggressive.
Well, I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole of now when I say Andrew, I have to go Andrew. I don't know why it's happening. It's happening.
Just go with it. It's fine.
We're going to go with it. Andrew, we have a guest today. We have a guest. He's in the studio. His name is Ryan. Ryan, welcome to the pod, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're so welcome.
I was expecting a more aggressive Ryan, but that's okay.
Oh, do you want...
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, Ryan.
That's better. Thank you.
I apologise for that. That was really bad. Ryan, before we get into your story, mate, the important question is, what are we drinking today?
Great question.
So just go for it.
So
get it out, pour it.
We came a bit unprepared. Archie and I had to do an emergency stop at the bottle-o. And we knew we were going to drink red wine. It was very funny because we walked in, we saw the special. It was like 2 for $17. And Archie was like, why don't we go have a look at all the wines? And I was like, oh, do you know much about red wine? And he was like, no, do you? And I don't think we read a single label. We just did a quick lap back to the $2, the 2 for 17.
One's in the front.
And picked up a cabinet Merlot.
Perfect, yeah. Cabinet. Picked up a cabinet Merlot. Cabinet Merlot.
A Merlot, and a Shiraz. So
beauty. What should we
could
start
be
with?
Anything. Any preferences?
No.
Let's start with a Shiraz.
That's a great idea. All right, crack it open, and then we'll pour it.
How close should I?
Oh, that's close. Yeah, that's good.
Oh,
That was
crisp.
good.
That's great.
Crisp.
That'll
We'll
sound
keep
good.
this one.
Yeah. All right, let's
a good
pour
crack.
them out. Pour some out. Let's
Have we haven't done a wine before, have
No,
we?
we
This
have
is
not
our
had a
first-
wine.
This is our first non... You're making a face at me.
Max. Remember Max, who came
Yes.
on to talk about trauma-informed care? Thank you, sir. He brought on like a bottle of floral...
That's right.
Was it beer? Or was it just a
Oh.
floral
It was
drink?
floral
It
something.
may have been a floral
Thank
you.
wine. I don't really know. But it was something.
We have not had a red wine before.
We have not had a red wine before. We've had sour beers and stuff, but I think this is our glow up. Maybe we're a wine podcast now.
We're looking for wine sponsors, so
Maybe
if
we
you are a wine
Yeah.
company,
Hunter
go,
Valley
James
episode coming up.
Yeah. Well, let's have a taste, see what we're dealing with here.
what are you smelling? Any notes? Any flavours?
Got him.
No.
Archie's done.
You asked me what am I smelling as I was drinking it. I'm like, oh no, I missed a step. I forgot that's something you're supposed to do when you're trying wine. Smells good. Tastes like red wine at 3:30 on a Friday afternoon to me.
At the beginning of a long weekend.
Clean Skins is the place. It's in WA from Dwelling Up.
Supporting the locals.
Yeah. Margaret River Wine Distillery. I'd tell you more about it, but it's really just a one label thing with a barcode on it. So I think we've probably gone the cheapest wine on the Mayfield Bottle-o in Narrowena. But good stuff, Clean Skins. Well done. Anyone else? How's it feel? It tastes good?
Mate, it's doing the job. Calming the nerves. Yeah.
Calm the nerves.
Can't give you any notes. It tastes like red wine. Can't even remember if it's the Shiraz or the Merlot, but we'll keep it.
Yeah, very good. That's all right. That's about as in-depth as our reviews of beverages normally go, so...
It's good. I said to Archie, I'm like, working in Marrickville for 2 years, seen enough craft beers, let's shake it up.
Nice.
Good shake-up. Well, Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, mate? What are you doing in Marrickville?
I'm working at Longevity Exercise Physiology. It's one of our many clinics across Sydney. And yeah, started there 2 years ago as a new grad. And I was there by myself initially. And yeah, now we've got a team of 4. So, yeah, it's been a pretty exciting journey. And then, playing some football in the Giants reserve team. So captaining that team the last 2 years has been good. Anything else?
Don't know.
There's a bit to unpack there,
Yeah.
I reckon. I'll ask you a question. The balance between like elite sports and like having a work, right? How have you found that? Has that been easy, difficult to manage?
Well, it is difficult, definitely. And you do have to sacrifice, a lot of things. Like there's no solutions with that schedule. It's just trade-offs. But it is something I've been balancing when I was at high school, studying hard, and then through uni. So I wasn't new to playing around with the schedule and making sure I'm fitting in all the priorities. But yeah, obviously working in a clinic is very, very challenging at the start. Like you're spending a lot more time on reports and programming and just solving all the challenges than you do when you've got a bit more experience. But I found that I just see it as exercise is going to be part of my schedule either way. I'm just doing it with an AFL team. Not much thinking involved, just show up, hold on for dear life, and then go back to the clinic and see my clients, smack a few coffees so I can be awake, and then it works out well. It's a good balance, I find.
Nice. That's what you want your captain to say. Not much brain work involved. Just turn up and run around.
Yeah, well, for training, definitely. There's a bit more thinking on game day. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So what? Say going back the last 2 years during footy season, what does a normal schedule look like for you? Because I imagine there's quite a lot on there.
Yeah, I'm not great at saying no either. So, do the Monday to Friday has been pretty chockers. I work full time, have the whole time. I've got a flexible schedule, which is awesome, longevity, but really good with that. If you can, if you can get the job done well, you've got as much flexibility as you want, basically.
Nice.
So that's been great. I've been, proud Sydney Uni alumni. Been doing some work with them.
Yeah, the boys.
Find it really rewarding. We're hiring, as you are, we're hiring a lot of their students. So it's been good to build a connection there, and got a lot of mentors there myself. So that's been good. But another part of the schedule, and then 2 to 3 sessions a week out at Sydney Olympic Park. I try, obviously, the Giants have said you've got access to most of the week. Work comes first. Do your best. Obviously, the catch is got to perform. Again, it's flexibility if you can perform.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll sort of have a modified schedule where I can go in early, do a meeting, get gym done with the conditioning coach away from the group, and then do the main session. And then games are, we're in the Victorian Football League, so games are, and this will confuse a few people, we've got the Queensland teams, New South Wales teams, and Victorian teams, most of which are in Melbourne. So a lot of my weeks are in Melbourne. I'll fly Friday afternoon after work, or Saturday if it's a Sunday game, and then get back sometime. Pretty often we're getting back 9 p.m. To Sydney Airport, and then big day of work the next day. So you're spending a few tickets, but at the same time, I've completely switched off from work for 2 days, which is something that, in off season, I do find hard. I always am thinking about my clients and what I can do to, upskill, all that stuff. You can't do that when you're getting a football kicked at you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, like I think there's like a lot of benefits to doing it, and I know a lot of my colleagues are doing like a similar thing with their respective sports, and like you get a lot of you get a lot of like personality traits and skills that like it's hard to develop in other environments, I reckon. So yes, does that answer the question?
Fuck oath it does. I think one of the main things that I took away from that is towards the end there, where it's like, because you're playing footy, your brain has to completely switch off work for 2 days, which I think for a lot of new grads is super hard. It's something that we have to deal with all the time. Not deal with sounds like a bad thing. Just kind of coach people through when they start working. Is now there's this huge mental load of you're caring for, you know, somewhere between 15 and maybe 30 people a week, and you care about their health and you care about their outcomes and how they're doing, and are they in pain right now, and how are they managing, and then the crap advice is, make sure you just switch off when you go home, and people go home and sit on the couch and are just like buzzed thinking about clients. It's like, and then make sure you get sleep. And so then people lie in bed going, fuck, how do I sleep when I'm thinking about clients? I know I'm a notorious sleep talker. And I know in my first year especially, I've been known to like run gym sessions in my sleep. And just be talking through clients and stuff while I'm being asleep, and Sarah, my partner, be lying next to me, and she'll wake up to me like trying to coach her through a session because I thought she was a client in my sleep.
Archie's seeing 60 clients a week.
Yeah, man, I've got a ton of time, 24 hours a day. There's no sleep, and then she go like, just lie down, go back to sleep, and then I'm still in my head. Thinking she's a client, and my client's asking me to lie down and go to sleep next to him. I'm like, no, I can't do that. It's like, you don't understand. That's incredibly inappropriate for me to lie down next to you. And my whole brain is just imploding. So that's what it's like for me, trying to, turn off at the night. But it's fucking hard. So I like the idea of like having a proper structured activity, having a proper thing that you can go to actually turn off. What do you do, Andrew, to like turn off? Well, not from clients, but from from
red wine.
From red. Absolutely. I agree. It's really difficult. I think having I would use exercise as a way to do that. It sort of forces you to think about something else if you're doing a fairly intense sort of exercise. I think I've always had like things that I'm working towards in my, I wouldn't call it sport, more like triathlon for me. Like there was always something that I was working towards, and that made it easier to sort of flip the switch. Not for a particularly long period of time, but at least for a couple of hours where I could just force myself to not think about work. But then it sort of comes back, and I think you learn how to do that. That's not something that you just figure out one day. It takes time to do that well. But I think that could be lots of things, right? I think that could be, Michael Risk from iMove, PlayStation, right?
Really? The gamer.
Yeah, and I think, and that's just an example that it doesn't have to be exercise related. It just whatever is going to work for you to turn off the work mode. Explore.
There has to be something that like uses your brain, right? Like the idea of finishing work, going home, and then just shutting off doesn't always work. Like having something like footy that requires some brain power but applied in a different way. Something maybe more creative or more competitive or something. Seems like a positive thing. What happens in off season then for you?
Do podcasts.
Yeah. Just guest on all the podcasts.
I've got a lot more energy for sure and time. Probably productivity probably doesn't go up that much. Like it is that idea that like give something to a busy person if you want it done. I think one of the best elements of off season for me is that I can go away from that like pretty high stress, like bit more cognitive footy training to just running and doing like less intense, less like plyometric training towards that like more therapeutic strength training and not being as rushed with that. I think away from exercise, like I'm not a big meditator, but I have found that like just having moments, whether it's like a walk or a trip home without music, without a call, without anything, just silence, has been like unbelievable for me. Read a book, Stolen Focus, by I think like
Johan Hari.
Yeah, that was Longevity Book Club Book of the Year, I reckon. I read that last year and then recommended it, and everyone who was in our meeting, I think it's had a really profound effect, just because we are in a job where your to-do list can be ever-ending. I don't think that changes whether you're a business owner or a new grad. Like there's always more you can be doing, and you just got to have some time, I think, every day where you do switch off fully, no input, except for maybe watching where you're driving if you're driving.
Oh, fuck, you definitely have those times though, right, where you just kind of, you come to, and you're like, how did I get home?
Yeah.
And I was like, did I just turn off completely, and was I concentrating on the road, or how did I even get here?
And I think like part 2 of off season, obviously the biggest sacrifice is the social element. So reintroduce myself to the girlfriend, see if she recognised me. She's a doctor, so definitely that's one of the hardest challenges and sacrifices in my in-season. And just like the other elements of social life, like you're sort of swapping footy from with more social events, which is fun.
Nice.
Good for the head.
More beers?
Yep, there is more beers. I think I was saying, all my mates know when I finish footy, so like it's almost like the same amount of like, energy given to like them as a footy game. Got so many things on every weekend when it hits off season, which is awesome. But I think like those meaningful relationships, obviously I've got them at Giants, but the more lifelong friendship groups, like you do need that in your weeks and your months. So that's my off season difference, I think.
Nice. Ryan, so you've been in practice for, we were saying before, about 20 months, you reckon?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. And in that stage, you're saying that you started in like a team of 1 at your site, and now you're a team of 4, which is wild growth. I imagine over that time, you've had quite a number of challenges. What do you think have been like the main challenges of that initial new grad journey that everyone has, and then going into also building a team so quickly?
I think firstly, like obviously something to clarify is like I'm in a team it was a team of 30, one at the location, so it didn't feel like I was on my own, but obviously you haven't got like a physical person there always to bounce questions off. I don't know if my challenges would be much different to yours at the time. Obviously, a lot of responsibility being a healthcare professional. I felt pretty confident in the S&C exercise prescription department, and obviously like leveraging that experience working with all the S&Cs at like Swans and Giants historically was really helpful. What were the biggest challenges? Like obviously the learning curve And just the perceived learning curve. Clinically, you're always trying to find that that trick or that extra bit of knowledge that you don't know. And you go on this wild hunt, like whether it's social media, like some podcasts, like I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot of books. And you're always finding, like searching for that trick for that client. But I don't know if that exists most of the time. You do, my experience has been that you do fall back on the fundamentals of exercise physiology and lifestyle management that you already knew. You just don't know how powerful that is at the time because you've only seen it in case studies and maybe you went to a great placement but you're there for 6 weeks. Like you're not seeing drastic changes that you get with like, a client across like maybe 12 weeks. And once you do start to see that, you realize that like if you can just get the basics right, you've got a really powerful, health solution. So that was something that I was challenged by. Obviously, like as I built a team, you almost like, the accountability for a manager and a leader, and that pressure is pretty high. I guess like shifting from thinking that I need to have all the solutions for my team to building like self-solving skills and pointing them to the right mentor, making sure that, similar to a client, like you obviously like get to know them, you discuss their expectations from their job and their career, and their goals, and you set a really good strategy and you constantly help them and evaluate as you go. That was a big learning curve and challenge as well. Probably park that answer there.
Yeah.
What challenges did you guys have early days? Or maybe they're the same challenges now.
I was relating a lot when you were talking about just the fundamentals of exercise and how I feel like social media kind of fucks you up a little bit, and the same with like professional development course marketing also fucks you up a little bit, where they market to you as this is the answer, this is the quick fix, this is the thing that'll help you, the one exercise that you don't know, or the one assessment tool that you need that will solve all of your problems. And none of it's really a thing. Like you end up watching the video because they draw you in, they get the engagement from you, and it's do external rotation in this position instead of this position. I'm like, fuck. It's like, you got me. Or, use this.
You got me.
Yeah, you got me again. It's like, I clicked on the video. Fuck. And now I'm going to go, this is the same as that thing. And then they go, yes, comment on my post. Very good. Come into my web. And then they win. They win. But yeah, and then you end up, what CPD course is going to sell by saying, hey, do your push, pull, squat, hinge at a good intensity, and also do some continuous aerobic activity like walking or swimming. It's like that's not selling to anyone, right? But that's the stuff I end up prescribing to people. It's like, hey, what meaningful activity do you want to do? And they go, well, I'd love to get back to swimming. It's like, cool. Let's start swimming then. Fixed.
God, this guy's good.
Guy's amazing. And it's almost like I thought there was more to it. And it's like, well, the more to it is not necessarily in the cool specific prescription. The more to it comes in can you actually motivate that person to make that behavior change, and get them on side and build that rapport and trust, and actually make long-term habits and routine changes for them. And that's the cool, interesting stuff that a lot of courses don't seem to sell that. They sell the assessment and the exercise special thing and the special test, because that looks sexy, right? Like, oh, wow. Do a 2-day broomstick mobility course and solve everyone's problems. Hey. Yeah. So I agree with that. And that's something that I don't think you ever really fully come around to either. Like I'm still doing that. It's like still coming back to that even more.
Yeah, I think like recently just it's that realization that like, you know, that drive to learn is good. Just make sure it's like you've got that concept that you're adding knowledge to what you know. You're not finding the panacea. Like you've already got the big rocks. It's cool to learn all the different variations and tricks. There's an art to exercise prescription for sure. So more is probably better because you will find someone who maybe it's just their preference and like you're aware of that modification.
Yeah, and the more options you have, then the more you can suit someone's preferences, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, totally agree with that. On the second one, Andrew, I feel like you'd be able to relate a lot to the idea of, well, as a team leader and not trying to fix everyone's problems, but early in owning a business, that must be hard because you know the right way to do something and you have a way that you want things done, and to trust other people or empower other people to do tasks that you're offloading. That sounds difficult.
I mean, I imagine it's fairly similar to the experience that you both are having now, that yeah, you do want that, right? And I think, you know, we were sort of floating before this idea of autonomy, mastery and purpose, which comes from a book called Drive. And as an owner, or even as a mentor, it's really difficult to let go. It's really difficult to see somebody do something that is different to the way that you would do it and be okay with that. It's hard to let go. And maybe that is also seated in the fact that, like, my name is so tightly connected to the brand and to the shirt that I'm wearing that there's a deeper connection to people doing something differently to what I would have done. Sitting here now, I can say that that's a good thing. And in the same way that you do want to go and find all the different ways to prescribe exercise and all the different tricks and tips and all that sort of stuff, the same thing applies when you're working with humans in an organisation, that you have to find different ways of connecting and communicating and allowing people to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, reflect on them, so that they have a perception that, you know, they're less likely to make a mistake in the future. It's not easy. And some people try, and that's the interesting thing, is that there'll be some people that, business owners that would say, you know, if this comes in, if you see this, do this. Like, here is our protocol for acute low back pain, or here's our protocol for a disc herniation at C5 or OA or whatever. Yeah. You do this. And it's a way of trying to mitigate risk, right? It's a way of trying to generate a very similar response every time, because it worked for me, so it must work for everybody else.
And the positive spin on that is you're trying to provide a consistent client experience. So there is like good intentions behind it, right?
Absolutely.
But it feels like sometimes it actually ends up just as a controlling, or trying to control every outcome, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure, and you know, Ryan, you might say the same thing about longevity, but if you were told, like, here is the protocol for every condition, like, it doesn't really inspire people to think differently or to work with the person that's sitting in front of them. It's quite cagey, and it's quite like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go back to the drawing board, and if it didn't work, it's not my fault. It's their fault, or it's the system's fault. Which again doesn't work for the patient's or the client's best interest at all.
You can't do that with like a holistic approach profession anyway. Like, how do you do a cookie cutter approach to one person to the next? It's like not possible.
Everyone's different. Everyone is different, and like, I can't prescribe the same program to two people with two different, with the same presentation and get the same results. It just doesn't work like that. Or someone's going to fucking love it and the next person's going to hate it. It's like if swimming was the most researched and most evidence-based protocol for treating a certain condition, and I gave it to someone who hates swimming, it doesn't matter that it's the most evidence-based. They're going to fucking hate it.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to do it, and then they don't get better. So I was like, it's
Why
just
am I
not
in a
simple.
swimming pool?
Yeah, like, that's right. I can't swim. Now I'm drowning.
Yeah.
Not great.
Not great.
How do you think you learn to release control? Now, I'm not circular, that came across the wrong way. And I don't mean that like you were controlling Andrew in like everyone must do this this way. How do you get to a point where you realized, okay, I can't control everything?
I think that's part of the realization that you cannot control everything. Part of it is a acknowledgement that there are other people that are smarter than me, and I think this is what we did very early on in Rebound. Is very early on there were a lot of people that clinically were a hell of a lot smarter than me, like Lauren, yourself, Sol. And when you were communicating about, what was going on with a patient or things like this, I don't know what's going on here, so I should shut the fuck up and not have an opinion on this. I was reading a book recently. It was Ray Dalio, Principles. Great book. What are the...
You really are a reader. Look at him.
It's a cracking book.
It's your third
I
book.
reckon we would have similar reading lists.
This is your third book reference this episode already.
It's book club, yeah?
Yeah,
Book club.
absolutely.
The honest book club.
One of the things that I took from his book was about know when to have an opinion and know when not to. And to your point before about social media, like there is everybody and his fucking dog has got an opinion about everything on social media. And what I took from that book was it is okay not to have an opinion about certain things. So for me to release control, in inverted commas, about certain things was a decision not to have an opinion about it and to let other people have that opinion on behalf of Rebound because they were smarter, they were getting good results with clients. Like when that happened, there wasn't this string of terrible results with clients, right?
Yeah.
There was this track record of again and again people providing great feedback on the experience that they had and on the journey that they had and on, hey, look, now I can do all of these other things. Like it wasn't your shit, I feel worse, this is terrible.
Where's Andrew?
He's doing the movement screen in the back. But I think that was also built off just like getting experience and learning how to do it well. So it's very easy to step back when you have a team that's able to, and you can see it, like able to provide an amazing experience for clients and get them doing what is meaningful to them. Is that similar to you, Ryan? Like the more responsibility that you've taken on as a leader, do you find it now easier to let your team kind of experiment and try things and you just kind of sit into the background?
I guess like the context is a bit different. Like I've seen it with the more experienced practitioners. Like that's definitely something that you would, struggle with. And it's so good, by the way, to hear from a business owner with experience. And I love, Ray Dalio's like believability weighted decision making. So like you got two people with great logic. I'm going to go to the more experienced one. That's just such a good principle in healthcare as well. The thing that I think helps is just picking up the phone and having like a discussion with someone who you think is believable and experienced. I'm definitely not going to preach to, I've never come across any like safety concerns. That would be obviously something that you jump out at. So would you. Like, I think when it's like, okay, the intention to treat's really good, makes enough sense, like all good. But yeah, definitely like happy to have like meaningful discussions around, colleagues' prescriptions, but definitely not like inserting my opinion. Like, this is better in my opinion. Like, no, like you've got a logical plan, back you in 100%. Let's see how it goes and evaluate after.
I think that's one of the key, like, characteristics or traits or whatever you want to call it of like really great leaders is it's not on me to tell you how to do your job. I'll question you on it. Like, I'll make you think about it, and I'll make you like almost justify what you're doing to me. But that's more for you to get it into your head. Like, yeah, I've thought about it twice. I still think this is the best thing, as opposed to like me coming in and going, well, I would have done this differently, and that's wrong because XB, whatever. Yeah. And to just, like, your job is not to fix the practitioners. Yeah. Your job is to just ask them questions and test what it is that they're doing. I think you get better responses.
Yeah. It comes back to the idea of experiential learning, where people are going to learn better if they try something themselves and then can reflect on their own experience of doing something. That's when they'll learn, rather than being told and having the information go in one ear and go out the other. Right? But they need to go and try something. And I think that is hard for a mentor or a leader to go, that's not exactly how I do it. I won't say that. But go for it. Give it a go. See what happens. And then I'll be here to help you reflect on it afterwards. And then we can see how we go from there.
Yeah. I think something down the track that might lead to, I haven't experienced this, but if you've come across someone that's made a couple of mistakes and they haven't brought it to you, I think that would be a red flag, because you're like, I'm going to have to watch this person closer. Like, and that would be like on you because you've hired them. But I think just preventatively, like if you can encourage a culture of like bringing challenges to you preventatively and like proactively, then like, you're all learning from that. And if you've got someone who's maybe got a bigger ego, happy to do it themselves, too proud to come to you with challenges, like that would be a management challenge. Have you experienced that?
Other than me. No, I'm kidding.
Lost cause. Just stick to the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Those people are no longer here.
Sigh of relief.
Yeah, Archibald.
You sweating?
And it's not... the reason I think that those people are no longer here is more the rigidity in their thinking, that I am right, and in spite of what evidence or evidence-based practice or information that's coming up through the internal professional development that we do, in spite of all that, I'm still going to do it a different way. And I think over time, those people sort of moved further and further away. Like, it wasn't a, you're fired because you do it differently to us. It was just like, this isn't the way that we do things here. We don't do the same thing with every person that comes in.
And I feel like the practitioner or the person themselves also feels that disconnect, and then they often fall out of love with what they're doing and where they're doing it, And I feel like often it's kind of led to people leaving themselves. If they go, this isn't really vibing with how I like to do things. Everyone here seems to do things a different way. It's like, okay, great. Well, we're clearly not a good match for each other then. And that's fine.
Yes,
That's
like
a
you're not
amicable
bad,
exit.
they're not bad. It's just not a match.
We just do things different way.
And you'll probably find another place that actually resonates really well with the way that you want to practice. Like, great, go and do it there.
Yeah. Fuck off. No, I'm kidding. go do something there.
Go do something else. Get the fuck out.
Yeah. No, that wasn't in relation to anyone. I was just throwing in a fuck off for the sake of it.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Before moving on? So you mentioned principles. I definitely have found that some of the best leaders that I've come across, whether it's sport or business or just through like the podcast networks, like reading is such a common theme. How have you used reading in your career? And like, I guess like I'm assuming you're a prolific reader somewhat. Is that true? And what influence have books had on your leadership?
I enjoy reading. I have always enjoyed reading. I read in different ways, I suppose. When I run, I listen to books. When I drive in the car, unless I'm sitting in quiet, because I have a 15, 20-minute drive home, and I really enjoy what you said before about like just switching off and having quiet in the car. I definitely do that regularly. But I listen to audiobooks and then I will read before I go to bed at night. That's sort of a wind down thing for me. And the books that have had the most influence on me have not come from allied health. They've definitely come from outside, which I think is one of those transition things that practitioners also go through is, I went through it. Like, you first learn about professional development from ESSA, and then you learn about it from a slightly wider network, and then you learn about it from, physiotherapy and chiro, and then you sort of go a little bit further out and a bit further out. And the biggest lessons that I've learned have come from further distance away from exercise physiology as a resource. We've kind of got books everywhere in here.
We do too.
Ignore some of them.
They're all clinical.
They're all clinical. There's some old ones in there.
Bit of a Jocko Willick.
It's good stuff. That's awesome.
How about a Jamie's Italian Kitchen?
But I mean, and
I hear you, yeah.
We include books now as part of our induction for
Awesome.
new team members, right? We give people Dare to Lead by Brené Brown as their sort of first.
Love that.
And then Radical Candor by Kim Scott.
So, yeah, absolutely. Like reading is such an important part of what it is that I do, and from a practitioner through to being a business owner, I think that's fundamental. For you, have there been any kind of standout books that you've read? Like any top three recommendation for?
Oh, it's like asking me my favorite food. I'm just like so many, but I'm not going to give you a very clear answer here. I'll just pick three that I can think of. Yeah, I think Principles was good. There were so many things in that apply to business and leadership, and just life in general. I would also say Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Just like massive dose of humility on, the limitations of our thinking and our biases. I think that's a good awareness for a healthcare practitioner to have. Can't get up my Audible. It hasn't. Third place does not go to anything exercise or even health related. I mean, I like Nassim Taleb's books for a similar reason. He's obviously quite arrogant, which rubs me the wrong way, but he's a mathematician, talks about again, the biases of our thinking and, how you can be fooled by randomness, which is just so relevant to healthcare again. I'll go with those three, but
Nice.
they're definitely probably not my top three. Just after a couple of wines, just what have I even?
Yeah.
What did I do yesterday?
What's reading?
What was breakfast today?
What books have I read?
What was my favorite? What was my favorite coffee today?
The Bible? Great book.
Great book.
Read that one. Yeah. Who's that by?
Many people.
Yeah.
No.
Let's not go down that path.
Archie, you just ruined book club.
So religion. No, I won't go there.
It's a good book.
Well, you.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. End of part 1 with Ryan. We're going to, I'm so excited that we're going to come back in a week's time to release part 2. We've got another 45 minutes to go. We've still got so much good content to get through. We get to the second half of the bottle of wine, so it gets a lot better. All right, we'll see you next time.